So when he was sentenced to trial on November 21st, 1957, he was convicted of one count of first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, and Gein was later on diagnosed with schizophrenia. So he was found mentally incompetent and unfit for trial. 11 years later, in 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. So after being with all of your people that are helping you diagnose what you have, saying that you're incompetent, doctors determining this, and then finally 11 years later to say, hey, he is able to talk about this now and confer with our evidence. Well, 11 years later, if he does have schizophrenia, is he going to remember that? Did he remember everything that he did? That's why they needed to probably try him more and more closer to the trial so that he wasn't having time to think about things. But during interrogation, when he was questioned who all he killed or unburied, like they said, he didn't lie about it. So maybe he wasn't gonna try to lie about it when he was later on determined against. But like I said, 11 years later, in 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. A second trial was then held November 7th, 1968, and lasted a week. In court, Gein did testify that after trying to load a gun, it discharged, not knowing if it was on accident or purpose, and it did discharge a warden. Like I just said, he did tell a psychiatrist that he did not know if he shot Warden on accident or on purpose, but what he did say could have been true. When you have schizophrenia, you do blank out and do some pretty crazy things, although that is true for Gein. That did not make it right for him to do everything he was doing by any means. But Gein was ruled guilty by Gallimore on November 14th after testimony by doctors for prosecution and defense. Gallimore ruled Gein not guilty by reason of insanity. After ruling, he was committed to Central State for the criminally insane for the rest of his life. But then he was then transferred to a state prison later on. Gein did spend the rest of his life locked up. The end result of the trial was that the judge wrote, due to prohibitive costs, Gein was tried for only one murder, that of Miss Warden. He also admitted to killing Mary Hogan. This is what I don't understand. Why would you try him for one murder? Yes, it's going to make him end his life in prison. He's going to be there forever. But why would you try him for one murder when he admitted to killing Mary Hogan as well? That's what I don't understand, but maybe I'll find some more evidential facts later on. But what I've researched now, I do not understand so far why they did try him for just the one. But after everything was resolved for Gein, his house and property were to be auctioned March 30th of 1958, and rumors went around that the house was to become a tourist attraction, which a lot of people didn't like. So that's when, on March 27th, 4 days before the auction, the house was destroyed in a fire, and arson was suspected but was never officially confirmed. Me personally, I do think it was arson because back in their time, if people were killed by him or exhumed from the grave by him, why would they want to make that a tourist attraction in the first place? And that would just make even more people mad. And that's probably why they probably burned it down and didn't want it to be a tourist attraction. But Gein did learn that the house was burned while he was in prison, and his exact words was, just as well. Just as well, meaning maybe he was okay with it being burned down. He knew that it wasn't right for it to be standing still because it was something from him. Or maybe eventually he was like, well, I don't love my mom anymore. I'm not like her. This and that. That was her house. I'm done. Just as well. Me personally, I don't know what I get from the quote. It could be multiple things. But later on, Gein's car was also sold for $760. That is very cheap considering the fact that Ted Bundy's car went for. And it was sold to Bunny Gibbons. He was a carnival slideshow operator, and he later on charged carnival goers 25 cents admission to see it. Back in the day, that was kind of expensive, but now 25 cents for us? That would have been crazy. Just give him a quarter and you would get a seat at Gein's car. But once he died in the Health Institute in July of 1984 on the 26th day, he was buried in Plainfield Cemetery between his mother and brother. His gravestone was eventually vandalized and eventually stolen, And like I said, you can still find him between his parents and brother. So overall, me personally, with every evidential fact that I've ever seen, everything that I've read about Gein, I personally do think he was a psychopath. He did have schizophrenia. He lacked emotions like love, guilt, and remorse. And he also was a grave digging necrophiliac. So, question for you guys: do you think abuse and violence when he was young gave him a negative mindset to kill? A lot of people say it's something that happened to you as a child or you were born with it. It's either genetic or emotionally, like, that's what happened. Like Ted Bundy, he started killing right after his huge breakup with the girl that he thought he loved. He absolutely adored her, and he started killing. Although some do say that Ted Bundy could have killed when he was a little bit younger, that girl next door to him, and we have some evidence that that could have been true, but not a whole lot. But I just wanted to see if you guys, what you think about that. Me personally, I do think it's something that happens to you as a child. It's emotional. I don't think it's genetic really, because that would be kind of crazy if it was genetic. I don't know. It could be. But Ed Gein did have a huge impact on like pop culture. I was gonna say ed culture, but it was so huge that people continued to make movies. Also, and the inspiration for Robert Bloch's novel Psycho as character Norman Bates in 1959 was from Ed Gein. Even though the movies were gruesome, our world was entertained by it. A big movie from 1960 was Psycho. It was inspired by Ed Gein as well. It was about Norman Bates, a mama's boy, just like Gein, and Norman suffered with dissociative identity disorder. Although Gein did not have that, he did have schizophrenia, kind of similar. But Gein and Norman also did suffer from severe emotional abuse at the hands of their mother. And in the movie, her name was Norma. Also in the newer show, and she taught him that all aspects of sex were sinful and that other women were whores. The relationship between Norman and his mother formed a serial killer, just like Ed Gein's relationship with his mother did form a serial killer as well. There was also a highly viewed show with the same storyline called Bates Motel. That is adopted from the 1960 film Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. Psycho was number 15 out of 100 on the top 100 pop culture films. Psycho pulled in a grossing 32 million and got a 8.5 stars out of 10. Another movie with inspiration was Silence of the Lambs. It pulled in a grossing 130.74 million and it was 62 out of the 100 on the top pop culture films. Gein also helped inspire the movie Halloween. John Carpenter, the maker, said he got his inspiration from Gein and a 15 to 14-year-old boy in a mental facility, and that is how he made the storyline for Halloween. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was also based around Ed Gein. It showed Leatherface skin and kill his victims just like Gein, except not in Texas. A movie that took a lot from Ed Gein case was Deranged: Confessions of a Necrophile in 1974. Motel Hell was another great film. A farmer kidnapped and killed people, not skinning them like Gein, but burying them. From transition to a real character to multiple fictional characters, filmmakers gained lots of attention just from being inspired by a serial killer. Just think, if Ed Gein wouldn't have killed, there wouldn't be a whole lot of great movies, although it does not make it right that he killed anybody, and maybe those movies could have been made without inspiration by these serial killers. But Ed Gein did have a huge impact on pop culture, which probably did help out a lot of filmmakers in the end, but it sucks because like the families of the people that he did kill or exhume their bodies, like their condolences still had to go to them and that type of stuff, and I feel very bad for their families. However, a lot of other people would agree that serial killers do have a big impact on pop culture and that a lot of great movies are made based on serial killers and inspired by serial killers. So that was all today about Ed Gein, and hopefully you guys will be learning a little bit about the Green River Killer soon when Sophia uploads that. But that's all I had for you guys about Ed Gein. If I left out any information about him or if you guys want to add anything, please let me know because I want everybody to know like the true evidential facts about everything. I don't want them to miss out on a single fact or anything like that. But although this was a very good, interesting one, Ed Gein was very interesting and he was very well known for the skinning of humans, just like how other serial killers are known for things that they do. But thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.